As you know, funerals can be a sad experience for children. Adam was no exception, yet his reaction upon seeing the coffin was completely different from what everyone expected, as he shouted in his innocent voice that Dad is still alive. This sentence was enough to cause a chill in the bodies of those present, but no one dared to believe it. And yet, a curious police officer decided to investigate this claim, and what he discovered was truly astonishing. At his father's funeral, the little boy Adam says, "My father is still alive." Then the officer discovers something exciting. The officer, named Trent, was an old friend of Adam's father. Trent and Adam's father had been friends since their college days, even as they each took different paths in life. When the officer heard what Adam had said, he felt a strange sensation, as if his hair was standing on end, but he also felt that something was off. The death of Adam's father, Joseph, was a mysterious case, as it did not occur due to natural causes, and the fact is that very few knew the reason or manner of his death. His wife Rosalie was the only one who spoke to the coroner, but she was heavily veiled at the funeral, and the coffin was closed, not even allowing Joseph's mother to take a last look at her son. There was something incredibly strange about all of this. After the funeral, Officer Trent arranged a court order to allow him to view Joseph's death certificate. When he arrived at the coroner's office, court order in hand, he saw an uneasy look on the coroner's face. The coroner said in a troubled tone, "This is very bad, but I can't find the death certificate." Officer Trent couldn't believe what he was hearing, but there was nothing he could do at that time. So the officer headed to Rosalie's house to talk with Adam. He needed to know why the little boy said something so strange when he arrived at Rosalie's house. She was shocked to see the officer on her doorstep, which is understandable because no one likes to see a police officer on their doorstep. The officer said gently, "Can I speak to Adam?" The officer noticed that Adam was standing behind his mother. Rosalie was somewhat hesitant, so the officer tried to make the situation less tense. "The matter is not big, just a question for the brave boy," he said, while making eye contact with Adam. Finally, the boy stepped forward, wanting to help the officer, and Rosalie reluctantly stepped back to let her son pass. The officer sat Trent in front of Adam, leveling with him. He kindly asked Adam, "Why did you say your father is still alive?" The child straightened up and took a different stance, hesitating. The officer patiently waited for the boy's response, and after moments of thinking, Adam looked directly into the officer's eyes and said, "I saw him. Where did you see him?" The officer wanted to ask. But Rosalie quickly pulled her son inside and said that's enough for today. But there was something different in her features. She seemed shocked and worried about what her son had said. Officer Trent had dealt with similar cases involving children before, so he knew this was not the right time to press for a longer conversation. Instead, he gave Rosalie his card and told her to contact him if she or Adam remembered anything else that might be important. As he headed to his car, he looked back, but the house door was already closed, feeling there was more to this story, but it was hard to push forward. When the only witness was a small child, Adam's words kept echoing in Trent's mind as he drove home, wondering what the child could mean by his vision of his father. Officer Trent sat in his home's dining room, staring at the laptop in front of him. He had no idea about the next step. The death certificate had not been tampered with, which made the coroner suspicious, but at the same time suspicious of what? Rosalie was adamant about not allowing anyone to look inside the coffin, so Trent had no idea whether Joseph was inside the coffin or not. Feeling deflated and a loss of hope in himself, he closed the portable computer and went to bed. If he wanted to look inside the coffin, he would need a search warrant, and he was almost certain that the judge would not grant him one, based on something a small child said. He needed more evidence, a lot more evidence. The next morning, the air was clear. As Officer Trent parked his car in front of Rosalie's ivy-covered house, he got out of the car and adjusted his private police badge, his face reflecting determination. The day was specifically dedicated to uncovering the truths that had been buried for a long time. He walked on the path leading to the house, revisiting his questions in his mind, hesitated a little before knocking on the door while he was waiting, looked at the windows, wondering about the secrets that might be hidden behind the colored curtains. When the door opened, a mix of astonishment and hesitation was drawn on her features. She said, ready to close the door, "Now is not a good time." He met her statement with a steady look and a calm voice, but determined. "Rosalie, I understand, but it's necessary that we talk about Joseph's case. There's a lot we need to discuss." Her eyes widened with anxiety, then she reluctantly stepped back to let him in as soon as he entered. Without wasting time, he simply said the loyalty certificate is missing. He watched her reaction closely, but no shock registered on her face. Instead, she sighed wearily, her voice heavy with exhaustion. "I'm not surprised. Nothing has been normal since Joseph's death." Her lack of surprise piqued Trent's curiosity, suggesting she might know more than she initially let on. The officer continued to press. Rosalie was taken aback when Adam mentioned seeing his father, an unusual claim for a child to make without reason. She flinched, trying to hide her pain. Adam has a vivid imagination, but sometimes I wonder if there was truth in his stories. He noticed a certain doubt in her voice and realized there was more beneath the surface. He sensed the constant internal struggle Rosalie was going through, but he also noticed that her resistance was starting to wane. He continued his conversation in a gentle but firm tone. "I need to understand what Adam really means." Rosalie looked at him with eyes filled with a mix of fear and relief, and finally whispered in a low voice, "Let's talk." Officer Trent entered the living room, where the atmosphere was calm, but charged with conflicting emotions. Rosalie sat down and said in a barely audible voice, "Tovey Joseph is listening in on a private moment, and that's why I was hesitant to talk about it." Her face turned a mix of sadness and embarrassment. Officer Trent was patient, understanding her need for privacy, but he also realized that this information added a significant complication to the investigation. These confessions clarified the reason for her reserved stance during the funeral and the reason for the coffin's closure. Just as Trent was about to ask her about the missing death certificate, the sound of a sharp knock interrupted their conversation. Rosalie jumped up quickly, her eyes darting towards the door. "I didn't expect that." "Anyone," she stammered as she headed to open the door. Trent waited in his place, his mind buzzing with possibilities. What could interrupt this awkward moment? When Rosalie opened the door, Adam pushed inside, his face glowing. Desperate to speak, the boy shouted with the enthusiasm of his mother, "I need to talk to Officer Trent," his small body barely containing his energy. Trent turned to Adam, signaling him to start soon. "What's there, Adam?" The boy began to reveal something important. Adam replied seriously. "I saw him, officer. I really saw him." The boy's eyes were wide and full of determination. He asked Trent calmly, "Where? Adam? Can you tell me where you saw your father?" The boy took a walk around the place, his fingers fidgeting, and after thinking, he said he saw him in the old playground near our house. Trent quickly noted the details. With increasing curiosity about what this place might mean, Adam continued his conversation. "He was always there." The boy continued to speak with a voice full of confusion and confidence at the same time. The details provided by the boy raised deep questions for Officer Trent. The playground was close to the house, but could Joseph have actually been there? Or was the boy's imagination more fertile than they had imagined? Adam began to stutter as he spoke, but he suddenly added that he had seen him at the shopping center. The day before the funeral, Trent leaned forward, his concern growing. "Are you sure, Adam?" The boy frowned, biting his lip. "Yes, he was there. I saw him." Trent's mind began to connect the dots, trying to understand what this meant. Was Joseph really at the mall? Or is this just a small child's imagination? Trent stopped after saying all he had to say. Adam knew he needed to verify this himself. "I will verify that, Adam." Do you remember anything else about that day? The boy shook his head, denying, saying that's all I remember. The next day, Trent headed to the commercial center, going there to conduct a thorough investigation. He wandered among the crowds, looking at each person carefully, and suddenly he saw a man from behind whose appearance resembled Joseph in a startling way. He had the same build and the same way of walking. Trent's heart pounded as he followed the man from a distance, trying to get a better look without arousing suspicion. Could this really be Joseph? Or is it just a striking resemblance? Trent continued to follow the man through the crowd, where the man stopped at a bookstore, then at a cafe, but he didn't seem interested in either place. For a long time, Trent's surplus continued to grow. With each step, when the man left the shopping center, Trent continued to follow him cautiously. The sun's rays reflected on his dark hair, and he moved quickly as if he had a goal. Trent continued to monitor him, wondering where this man was heading. They led him to a quiet residential area on the other side of the city, where the man stopped in front of a modest house. The house was tidy, and it had a small garden. It seemed to be cared for with love. The man entered through the gate, while Trent parked his car a short distance away. His mind was buzzing with questions. Is this his home? Or a friend's house? Or is there something more secretive? Trent stayed in his car, observing the house carefully, scrutinizing every small detail, starting from the house number to the color of the curtains. His notebook was full, and every note could be a decisive clue or a dead end. As the sun set, Trent began planning his next steps, knowing he needed a search warrant and additional support. It was no longer just a matter of following a small child's lead. It had become a potential thread to solve the mystery of Joseph's death. The next day, Officer Trent prepared to return to the house and face the truth. Officer Trent arrived at the house that the man had led him to, determined to uncover the truth. He knocked on the door forcefully, his other hand resting on his police badge, clearly visible to anyone who might open the door. The neighborhood was quiet, and the sound of the knocking almost echoed down the street. The officer stood firm, ready for any response that might come. After a few moments, the door opened suddenly, and a man appeared, looking startled when he saw the officer in front of him. The man, who was later known as Alex, said in a questioning tone, "Can I help you?" He was looking at Trent Street cautiously, but he didn't recognize the officer. Trent introduced himself formally, maintaining a friendly tone, but professional. "I am Officer Trent from the local police department. Can I have a moment of your time?" Inside the house, Trent didn't waste time and asked directly, "Are you Joseph?" He was watching for Alex's reaction. Alex's confusion increased. Wrinkles appeared on his forehead, and he said in a tone mixed with surprise and annoyance, "Joseph, I don't know anyone by that name." Trent remained suspicious of his response, but he decided to escalate the situation, saying firmly, "I need you to come with me to the police station to clarify some matters." The officer's tone was decisive, leaving no room for negotiation. Alex was surprised by the officer's reaction, and his body stiffened. Realizing the seriousness of the matter, he tried to object, saying, "I didn't do anything wrong." But Trent had already begun to pull out the necessary papers to summon Alex. With Alex continuing to resist, Trent took a quick action and handcuffed him with skilled hands, saying in an apologetic but firm tone, "I'm sorry, but we have to resolve this matter." Alex was led to the police car in the interrogation room. Alex sat opposite Officer Trent, his face reflecting complete confusion. He said in a voice full of despair, "I don't understand why I'm here." He insisted on his identity strongly, while Trent was displaying pictures of Joseph in front of him. The officer moved the pictures in front of Alex one after the other, watching his expressions, looking for any sign of recognition. The officer asked in a voice mixed with frustration, "Are you sure you don't know this man?" He was trying to push Alex to admit anything. Alex looked at the pictures with scrutinizing eyes, but he continued to deny, saying, "I told you, I don't know this person," and his denial was firm and convincing. In front of this blocked path, Trent decided to try another approach. He said, "Well, let's try something else. What about the nuclear acid test? It will clarify things." Signs of anxiety appeared on Alex's face. But he agreed reluctantly, knowing that this might be the only solution to clear himself from this awkward situation, while Rita was on the verge of discussing the nuclear acid test in detail. The door suddenly opened and Rosalie rushed in, her eyes red from crying. Without hesitation, she pushed towards Alex and collapsed in his arms, crying heavily. Alex was surprised by her unexpected reaction and began to pat her back awkwardly, and it was clear that he did not know how to deal with this situation. He whispered to her in a voice full of confusion, "I'm sorry, do I know you?" Alex's face was filled with shock as he tried to calm Rosalie down, while Rosalie was crying hysterically and seemed to have completely lost control over her emotions. Alex looked at Officer Trent, asking for an explanation from this woman. Officer Trent continued to observe the scene, trying to analyze what was happening. This unexpected emotional collapse only intensified the situation, adding a new layer of complexity. After a short while, the results of the DNA test came in, and the outcome was definitive. Alex wasn't Joseph, but he was his twin brother who was separated at birth, and neither of them knew about the other's existence. Officer Trent sat with Alex and Rosalie in the center's meeting room, presenting them with the papers that confirmed this. The paper rustled softly as Trent placed it on the table. Alex looked at the paper with a pale face and eyes full of shock and disbelief. All his life, Alex believed he was an only child, and he had no idea that he had a twin. The truth was, like a deep shock to him, it was beyond imagination. While Rosalie was trying to digest this news, she murmured to herself as if remembering something. She had been deceived, completely forgotten. She suddenly remembered that her father Joseph had hinted in the past at the possibility of him having a brother. Her words seemed like a thread of forgotten memories that were trickling into her mind. Silence fell in the room. As everyone was trying to process this new information, Alex sat in his chair silently, his mind racing ahead of time, trying to understand what was happening. How could he have a twin brother who was here all along living a completely different life? Detective Trent continued to take notes, as the confirmation of the existence of a twin brother added a significant piece of the puzzling mystery surrounding Joseph's life and death. But despite this discovery closing a part of the case, it opened new doors to understanding the events surrounding Joseph's disappearance and the circumstances that led to his death. With the twin puzzle solved, everyone's view of the events surrounding Joseph's funeral began to change. The scattered pieces started to come together to form a clearer picture of two intertwined lives that, unbeknownst to them, lived separately. Rosalie, Alex, and even Officer Trent felt a sense of trust in this discovery, and they realized the extent of the impact of past secrets on their present. In the end, it was decided not to exhume Joseph's grave, as everyone felt that his final piece should remain undisturbed. The cemetery became a place for reflection and remembrance, remaining unaffected by the recent events that had unfolded around it. In the weeks that followed, Rosalie and Alex continued to communicate regularly, exploring this unexpected bond that had brought them together, their lives becoming increasingly intertwined. As the months passed, Alex became not just an uncle to Adam, but also a father figure and a strong support in the family's life. Their relationship deepened daily, with Alex making up for the years he didn't know Joseph or Adam. He would see Alex and Adam working together on model airplane projects, visiting aviation museums, or enjoying short trips on weekends. Alex became an essential part of Adam's life, filling the void left by his father's absence. As for Rosalie, she found in Alex a new friend and a brother she might have lost through her husband's death. Over time, they began to share more memories and stories about Joseph, which helped both of them heal from the grief that had been weighing them down. The relationship between Alex and Rosalie became filled with mutual respect and support, where they built together a strong foundation for a new and cohesive family life. Officer Trent, who witnessed these positive transformations, felt a great sense of pride and satisfaction in seeing the results of his efforts to uncover the truth. For him, this case was not just a routine job or a task to complete an investigation, but an opportunity to change people's lives for the better. Despite his personal life remaining in the shadows compared to what happened in the life of Alex Rosalie, But he felt that what he achieved in this case was bigger than just a legal investigation. It was a lesson in patience, determination, and commitment to justice and humanity. At holidays and family gatherings, Alex was always present. Whether at birthday parties or weekly dinner duties, he became an inseparable part of the family. And as the community began to accept him as a new member in Rosalie's family, there was a new sense of peace and happiness in their daily lives. The unexpected story between Alex and Joseph, even if only through memory, has become a source of inspiration for many in the local community. It became a model of the strength of family relationships and the importance of facing the facts, even if they were painful or unexpected. In the end, and with time, the grave that once contained Joseph's body was no longer just a symbol of loss, but became a symbol of life's persistence and of building new bridges connecting family members. His memory remained alive in the heart of everyone who loved him, especially in the heart of Adam, who found in his Uncle Alex a new link to continue his father's story. Officer Trent was watching from a distance, knowing his role might be over, but he felt a deep sense of relief knowing that he had contributed to changing this family's life for the better.